Hey,
Hello.
fire.
Oh, fire. Go. Zing. Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Tales of History, the show where two sisters spark up and take a hazy journey through the history you didn't learn in school. It's the only history class where being high is part of the syllabus. Now, to meet your sisters, I'm Laurel. I'm the older sister.
I'm the elder sister.
The elder
Also
sister.
true, but you don't have to make yourself sound like a senior citizen. I'm Katie, obviously the younger sister.
Tag team back again. I'm recording on location, not on location, but just
On location.
on location, in
location.
location, a different location,
Correct.
very far away, but
But in the same galaxy.
in the same galaxy. It's episode 99.
99.
Oh,
Party like it's 1990.
can you bloody believe it though, Katie? After nearly 4 years of High Tales of History,
It doesn't feel that long. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like I was saying it to someone. I think I had connected. My pen pal, soon to have pen pal from Germany.
oh,
Um, and I had said something. They're like, "Oh, you have a podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, how long have you been doing that?" And I sat there and I had to like think about it. I was like, "A long time, actually." Like, I think people expect. I mean, especially with podcasts, because everyone's like, "Oh, we're so funny and original, and we're gonna make it big," right? That's what everyone wants to do with
oh yeah.
podcasts. This is a little bit more of a labor of love. I'm not saying it's any bigger, worse, or better than anybody else's. I'm just saying it's a passion project that only history nerds are gonna like.
For sure, yes.
Yeah. That being said, I do love it, and honestly, I think I don't know, it's probably one of my more favorite things personally I've done.
Yeah.
I just enjoy that dive through history. It's led me to a lot of things. This is gonna sound like really stupidly like profound, and I don't mean it to. Maybe not profound, but like deep.
Hmm.
It's I mean, even like journeys of self-discovery through learning about history.
Yeah.
Not to sound like super cliche and weird, but definitely like a lot of my life has now come to the point where it centers around history. And I don't know, I just think it's really interesting. It's just like taken me in a very different direction in life than I thought it would. Thankful for it, definitely. And happy to be here. So, and
Hmm.
then that whole idea that it's just even been going on that long.
4 years. Well, it'll be 4 years in June. But yeah,
Mhm.
we'll have done 100 episodes very soon. It's episode 99 now. Here we are. We're back doing it, miles apart, but close in our hearts, all together, the smoke circle. How are you doing, Katie? How, how, how are you?
No,
What are you doing? What's
I'm
going on?
totally into that. Like whatever you're doing, I was like, actually, yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm good. I'm hanging in there. Sometimes life just tries to pull you back down, and you're like, nah, man, you
Uh-uh.
can't pull down my raft of life.
Nope.
I'm
Nope. Fuck
floating
you, life.
away.
Hmm. What's your high of
Oh,
choice
my
tonight?
pick of poison tonight. Now,
Yeah.
whilst I don't always imbibe, sometimes I take off breaks, or sometimes it's just not the time in life.
Yeah.
This is not one of those days,
Good.
and just even if we have listeners that are not, this is a smoke circle for everybody to show
Hmm.
with their level of inebriation or sobriety. We're just here because we love history. But for real, dude. I mean, man, do we need a what do you call that? Not a crossover. What do you call that? Oh, sponsorship.
Sponsorship. Yeah.
I guess you could
Hey,
call that a
man.
crossover.
We would love for you to cross over to us.
Yeah, that would
Pay
be great. But
sponsorship
yeah,
money.
how about you?
Oh, well, I had some Chinese takeout tonight, which is not the question that you asked me. But with my Chinese takeout, I had a few cocktails.
It could be. I was gonna say it could be important to the plot. I wasn't gonna demonize you for that. Be like, no, it's fine.
Cocktails and Chinese food felt
This is going
exactly like
somewhere.
what I needed to do. And this is it. We're here for some history. Yeah. So this season
I was gonna
cinco,
say
as I
this is
keep
gonna
calling it.
be a sister episode.
we've been very guest heavy this season, and we'll continue to be so for the rest of the season. So hopefully you guys like having more guests on. But what we're
Mhm,
trying to do is theme together the episodes around a topic or like a general umbrella
mhm.
of topics. So we've had women's history, and then tonight we're going into ancient Egyptian history. So that's kind of the umbrella topic.
I can't believe I
So
did that. That's really embarrassing.
I feel it, own it, live it, love it, live, laugh, love. I
I
think
was
that was
singing the
carved into a
Bangles
pyramid.
to Blake the other day.
What's that?
I was singing the Bangles to Blake the other day.
See?
I'm trying to think what song it was though. Hazy Shade of Winter's rad, but that's just a cover of Simon and Garfunkel. What's the one where it's oh,
All about the
Eternal
Egyptian.
Flame. Do you
Oh,
remember that one?
mhm. So tonight we're going into ancient Egypt, and then we'll call this probably like, I don't know, Raiders of Ancient Egypt or something
I
like
hope so.
that. So
I hope
that way
so.
you can, it's all about the ancient Egypt tonight. So Katie gets to go first because we're going to go in a chronological order.
Which means I don't have to do bottle leaf grinder.
Hmm.
Did I just DMX you, dude?
Yeah,
I'm
suck
sorry.
it.
Dude, WrestleMania's coming up. You know what? You know it's on Easter this year, and I'm gonna be honest, dude. All right, hold on. Everyone gather in. Gather in
Okay.
smoke circle. We have to talk. Our parents texted me like, "What are you doing on Easter?" I said, "It's WrestleMania. There is no Easter."
Did you know that Easter's also on 420 this year?
Yeah, as is
And WrestleMania.
WrestleMania. Yeah, WrestleMania was also
Yeah.
420 last year. And last year, actually, it's the anniversary of when I got my concussion.
Oh
So,
no.
yeah, because it was during WrestleMania, because that's what led to the
Oh, that's
concussion.
right.
So we're a year
Don't
out
try
from
things at
that.
home, kids. That's basically what
Yeah,
that
no,
is.
please don't. Especially if you have a bad shoulder that you're gonna like drop yourself into a wall. Not a great idea. So yeah, Easter's on 420, basically, which is WrestleMania. And dude, listen, where do my loyalties lie, Laurel?
I mean, where are you gonna go? You mean like watch it on pay-per-view or something?
Yeah, it's 2 days. It's all weekend.
Oh, okay.
It starts Friday. This is dedication. This is the
Just like the
time.
Lord would have wanted it.
Exactly.
Oh, it should have been
So
3 days, really.
it is. It's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's 3 days. It's
and they and they crown the champ on Sunday.
probably. I haven't seen the schedule yet between Friday and Saturday. I think there's still a couple more matches
Oh
this Monday to
no.
be decided, and then we'll know. But yeah, it's going to be in Vegas this year. To be
Hmm.
fair, I warned them a month ago, and I was like, "Don't ask me to do anything on Easter. It's WrestleMania weekend." They're like, "Wait, are you serious?" I was like, "I went on Christmas. What makes you think that I'm lying to you right now?" And I didn't even like wrestling then. It's not my
Oh.
fault that WrestleMania is put on the Lord's weekend, okay? Maybe that's a sign that everyone should stay home and watch WrestleMania. That's what I'm hearing. Today, on our tour of Egypt, we're beginning our adventure in France, as you do. So, from the years of 1798 and 1801, there's a Frenchman you may have heard of. In passing, you might have heard his name. He went by the name of Napoleon Bonaparte.
Oh, I know him. I know that guy.
Right? He Napoleon was an ambitious man, and he harbored a dislike for the British, as any proper Frenchman does. Think they revoke your Frenchman status if you don't.
Yeah.
This led Napoleon on an endeavor to undermine British trade routes and hopefully sever Britain's colonial holdings in India. Shout out to Raph. With the hope of challenging British dominance in the region. Good luck there. East India Trading Company and all that. Napoleon left Toulon, Toulon in May of 1798. He had a fleet of about 36,000 troops and landed in Alexandria on June 28th. Now, Napoleon is never one to waste time, especially around unshowered women, his favorite. Napoleon and his army rapidly subdued the Mamluks, basically the people in control of the region at the time.
Okay.
This is of course in Egypt, because it's called the Battle of the Pyramids, and it's think So what did I looked this up on the map. I'm pretty sure the pyramids are, is it north, or I think they're just south of Cairo when you're looking at it. So in this Battle of the Pyramids, they capture Cairo and establish it under like French control, right? So they're like, walked in with the flag, did the whole thing, like this is ours now. I'm sure we're all familiar with that here on a history channel. So Cairo, if I remember correctly, if Cairo is here, Laurel, you can put a map up, but for you, if Cairo is here, the pyramids are like here on the map. So just to tell you where his area of control was. And here is where our tour really begins, in the town of Rosetta, located along a small tributary of the Nile. So, for those of you who didn't go to earth science like I didn't and had to look this up, a tributary is a small, think like side river, not quite a side piece, not a side hustle, but it is a little tiny side river streamish body of
Okay.
water that comes off
Yeah.
from a main river, i.e., the Nile, the longest and mightiest river in the world. It's that or the Amazon. I can't remember. I think it's the Nile, though.
I can confirm that fact on the bottom in the video.
Okay. I think it goes Nile, Amazon, Mississippi, I thought, but
I could actually, you know what? How about we figure that out now?
do it. And tell me that I'm right because I do like to be right.
Okay. So
What
it
did I
is the Amazon River,
It's the Amazon, okay.
exceeding that even the Nile River, which is often considered the longest.
Oh,
They say the Amazon River wins out because, in terms of mightiest, in terms of volume of water that it
yeah.
discharges.
Yeah. That makes sense. The Amazon's like, whew. But the
Yeah.
Nile is the longest river.
Nile is the longest.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Really
All
glad
right.
we
And Mississippi's
facts.
third?
Fours?
Who kicked the
No, no, no.
Mississippi
Wait,
out?
hang on. Hang on. I'll figure
There's
this
a
one
big
out again.
river in India that I always forget about.
All right. So for that one, the top mightiest rivers, considering length and discharge of water volume,
Oh man.
Nile, Amazon, Yangtze, Mississippi, and the Yenisei.
Okay.
Yenisei. I don't know some of those. Yeah, the Yangtze is entirely within China,
Yeah, I thought so.
and
I'm pretty
then
sure I heard of that one before.
then in the Yenisei or Yangtze is Russia, Mongolia. Okay.
Oh, I know that
And I
place.
know I mispronounced those, so apologies there.
I do love Mongolia.
All right. Facts. Facts. Facts.
The Nile. There you go.
The Nile.
So, tributary of the Nile, there
Hmm.
were along the coast of the Mediterranean, east of the city of Alexandria in Egypt, if you're looking for it on a map. Napoleon's forces were busy constructing fortifications when a large, dark colored, almost granite in appearance stone was uncovered by French officer Pierre Francois Xavier Bouchard, I believe is how you say that. Well, it ain't
Sounds hot.
Bouchard.
I would SH that one as well.
Yeah. Uh, so Pierre uncovered it in July of 1799, so about a year after they landed and gained control of the area. Pierre immediately recognized the significance of the Greek and hieroglyphic scripts that were right next to each other, right? So he looks at this and he guesses, correctly, I might add, that it's a translation of the other texts. So this guy, who has got a brain on his shoulders, let me tell you, was like,
That's smarty pants.
I know. I was like, I'm actually like super impressed with him. Like, I'm super glad because he knew immediately. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is important. He sends it to like the French scholars that came with them and historians and whatnot. Because apparently Napoleon brought them with too. Because I mean, the man was prepped. He was ready for whatever was going down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, and he was like, get this to them immediately. So the stone then, after they find it, it's named after the town from which it was found in, Rosetta. Ergo, it's the Rosetta Stone. Yes, shares a name with the popular language teaching stuff, which is obviously,
Yeah, which is what it was named after. It's like
I mean,
speaking a
makes
new language.
sense. Yeah, we'll
Mm-hmm.
get into it. I'll break it down a little bit for you.
Okay.
So the stone was sent to French scholars for further study until Napoleon's defeat by the British and Ottoman forces in 1801. 1801, right? So we're at the beginning of a new century. This century is a pretty tough century for Egypt. I'm just going to say it. It's people use a lot of the word exploitation when they describe this century
Mhm.
for Egypt. And it goes on to the source I was talking about was referring to the repression of any independent Egyptian development. So, like, them being able to govern themselves, basically. And the European powers that were in power there led to like nationwide protests. And there's a lot of unrest in that country during this whole next century. Egypt went through an intense period of what can only be called robbery when controlling powers raided many national monuments for artifacts and which were sent back to museums that still hold them today. So they haven't given back to Egypt, even though they were found there and probably belong there.
Yeah.
The stone itself bears marks of the conflicts and the colonization. On the sides, it reads captured by the British Army in 1801 in like white paint. They painted on it. And presented by King George III on the other side. So,
I know that
which they
guy.
didn't wash off, which is interesting to me. It's not on anything because the sides are just broken, from
Mhm.
where it came out of the large stone, like giant, like floor high tablet it would have been a part of.
Mhm.
So it's just on the broken sides and they just wrote on the side. So it's not on anything, but it's still just kind of one of those things like this is mine now. I liked it.
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
know? The stone was officially turned over to the British at the Treaty of Alexandria, which was signed in 1801, and there it was promptly sent to the British Museum in 1802. It has been there ever since on display under the registration tag BMEA 24. So, as scholars embarked on serious attempts to decode the Egyptian scripts with the help of the Greek translation, because that's kind of what everybody knew, right? That's where they're going to start. It had Greek on it, Demotic, which was like, I thought in the area of Egypt it was found, it was a language that was spoken there. And then obviously ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. So,
Right.
which
Okay.
up until now, see, here's the thing is we live after this period of time. So we live in a time where we know what hieroglyphics say and can decently accurately decode them. None of that would be possible without this Rosetta Stone. Is
Yeah.
basically what I'm telling you. Like it was actually like the key to the past. Like it was a big deal without a doubt. That's why I was so impressed when that Pierre guy was like, "Oh, I know what we have here."
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
sent it in. I was like, somebody's been reading. They're very clever. Clever girl.
Pierre.
I
Hot.
know, Pierre. Well done, Pierre.
Pierre.
I wonder if
Pierre,
he's
nice work.
lasted the wonder if he lasted the war. It's a sad thought. Anyway, moving on.
Moving on.
Uh, sorry, Pierre.
Poor
Deuces.
Pierre.
I know.
Peace and
So
blessings. Peace and blessings.
yeah, obviously his heart was somewhere in the right way, even though he was stealing from the people that were there. But anyway,
Uh,
so there's the trilingual inscription on there that I said, and it set off this decipherment frenzy across Europe. Everyone is like sending their best students to try and figure out what does it say? What is it? Everyone kind of think about it like the race to space, except in Europe. And everybody wanted to be the first one to decipher this, right? This like
mhm.
secret code from the past, which I don't blame them. Like, I mean, think of it. We grew up in kind of a Egypt craze. I mean, Brendan Fraser's The Mummy came out when we were kids, which is a fucking rad ass movie if you haven't seen it.
Mhm.
Dude, I
Mm.
love Brendan Fraser. That dude
Mm.
fucking slaps my socks off my feet, like
I
for
know.
sure. Like,
Maybe I need to have
and
you
that's a
over
compliment.
for that.
Huh?
Maybe I need to have you over for that. For on the big
Say
brown couch
less.
movie reaction. That'd be fun. Maybe we'll do that one.
Say less. That movie rocks. So everyone in Europe wants to be the first person to decipher this because that, I mean, it's the only reason we can even read like there's all these crazy facts about ancient Egypt that you hear about and it's like, "Gee, don't you wonder how we know that?" Well, because, archaeologists and historians do work like this so that they can use it to decipher the culture as a whole. It's pretty crazy stuff if you're a history nerd, which I am. So, most know the Rosetta Stone and immediately make the jump to Egyptian hieroglyphics, but that's far from the truth. It took years for scholars to decipher even a small amount of this text. The first steps towards any sort of decipherment focused on the Demotic inscription, since that was the best preserved of the Egyptian versions. Antony, I believe, Isaac Silvestre de Sassy, a French philologist. Yep. I don't know why.
I'm going to say Antoine.
Antoine. That's how
Okay.
you say that name. Thank you. I think when I read it, here's the thing is when you read stuff and you don't say it out loud, it is different. And I looked at it and I read it as Antony.
Oh, okay.
It's
Antoine.
Antoine.
Yeah, I would say Antoine.
Oh, Antoine?
Mm-hmm.
Why they gotta make it so fancy?
Well, he's French, right?
Yeah, the French, even their language wears doublets. This is ridiculous. They make it so hard for an American. We're very uncultured. I don't know if you've noticed.
Yeah, all of France is screaming right now. Any French speakers?
If all of France listens to us, first of all, I'm impressed with our reach. If that many people in France, I have nothing against France.
Oh.
They do love their creamy sauces, though.
Hell yeah,
they do. They're good at
creamy sauce.
I've recently mastered the beurre monté, the mounted butter. What? Is that not how you say it?
I don't know. What is this?
It's mounted butter. You emulsify the butter with water and you put herbs and garlic and spices in it, and it's like the most muy magnifique magical thing you could have tried. There you go, France.
I might not be able to speak. Is it a sauce?
Yeah. It's beurre, B-U-R-R-E.
Yeah, what do you put it on? Just when I'm leaning in like a pervert. Yeah, I want to hear. What do you
steak, I put it in mashed potatoes. I poach, if I'm poaching a fish for Blake, because I can't eat fish, but if I poach fish, I poach it in that. Your cloves that you cut in half in there, you throw your herbs in there. I think I did green onions last time, which was delightful on salmon, or so I was told.
Okay.
That's absolutely delicious. And then I just strain everything out of it, because then it's an infused beurre monté, or mounted butter. I really hope I said that right, France. I uber like emoji with heart eyes your food, so I do my best to get it right. My French onion soup, chef's kiss, without a doubt.
Very magnifique, for sure.
Yes. Oui. Because I caramelize those onions. I home make my own beef bone broth, man. My French onion soup goes hard.
It does. It's so good.
And I bake my own like French baguette.
Do that.
So anyway, now that we've side tangented hard on French cuisine, dink.
Okay.
The first steps towards decipherment, basically at this point, focused mostly on that Demotic inscription. That was the best preserved of the Egyptian versions. So I want to keep calling one Antony, but it's Antoine Isaac Silvestre de Sassy, I believe, the French philologist, and his Swedish student, Johann David Ackerblad. They managed to identify the phonetic values of the so-called alphabetic signs, to read these personal names and to determine the translation for a smattering of words. So we're going to get into basically what that means. So hang in there. So the starting point for these efforts was using personal names of the kings and queens mentioned in the Greek inscription and trying to match their sounds to characters in the Egyptian versions. So these developments set the stage for the now infamous rivalry between Thomas Young and Jean-Francois, I'm sorry, France, Champollion. So think Champ, C-H-A-M-P. Ollion. Champollion. So they're in a race, him and Thomas Young, to decipher Egyptian hieroglyphs. Both brilliant men, Young, the elder by 17 years, made incredible progress with both the hieroglyphic and the Demotic scripts. But it was Champollion, hope I'm saying that right, who led the final breakthrough. Champollion dedicated his intellectual efforts since childhood to ancient Egypt. This man was passionate. And he studied the Coptic, which was, I think that was not just a people, but also like a religious sect as well, under Silvestre de Sazi. So he was a student of the precursor. These efforts paid off when Champollion confirmed the hypothesis that Egyptian hieroglyphs indicated phonetic sounds, not like a word, but like each one has its own sound. Using his knowledge of the Coptic to correctly deduce the reading of the hieroglyphic writing of the word to give birth. That's the first thing he translated. Crazy shit. This is a big deal, man.
Yeah.
Apparently the story goes that in that moment he became the first person in well over a millennia to read the cartouches of Ramesses and Thutmosis, in their original language. In a legend recounted by Champollion's nephew, upon recognizing the significance of this confirmation, Champollion burst into his brother's office and shouted, "I've got it!" and supposedly fainted, remaining unconscious for nearly a week. Now,
Holy
I don't know
shit.
how much of that is true,
Buddy.
but the
Okay.
odds of him being insanely exhausted, like, I know how passionate these historians and scholars get about this stuff. I mean, think about, like, the race to the moon or to space, remember? Like, it was just
Mm. Mm-hmm.
constant. Like, nobody slept. Like, it was a 24/7 thing. I imagine it a lot like that. So, me thinking that he collapsed and, like, died for a little, like, a week to recover from exhaustion makes sense to me. I
Yeah,
know.
I mean,
But
God,
that was what the story
poor guy.
said, so I made sure I included
Well,
it.
note.
So, with this feat, Champollion established himself as the father of Egyptology, embedding the Rosetta Stone into the birth of a new era. Thus, mankind entered its Egyptology era, hair toss, as is in, not that I have hair to toss, but if I did,
Mhm.
as I added into my notes, that was an important thing for me to not miss with you guys, so. Scholars were able to confirm the Rosetta Stone represented 3 translations of a single text. So, the content of that text, already known from the Greek version, was a decree in the name of King Ptolemy V of Epiphanes. And that's how it's said. I double checked.
Thank you.
On March 26th of 196 BCE, a group of priests from around Egypt convened to celebrate the coronation of Ptolemy. Sorry, there's a P there, and I keep wanting to say it, but it's just the P is silent. It's Ptolemy, the fifth of Epiphanes, the previous day in the city of Memphis, not Tennessee, but in the capital of Egypt at the time. It's not
And
Tennessee.
I'm walking in
I
Memphis.
know, I was like, walking in Memphis, jamming out, and you're like, just kidding. We're in Egypt, bro.
Not
Get it
that
right.
one.
Brendan Fraser, Emotep. At the time, Memphis was being eclipsed economically by the city of Alexandria down on the Mediterranean coast. But their city still remained an important link to the past. There was a royal, basically, decree stemming from this meeting throughout the country. The congregation and the coronation, Ptolemy V, took place in Memphis. And this text on the Rosetta Stone is actually referred to the Memphis Decree. It's referred to as that because that's kind of what they were all talking about at that time. At the time that this decree was written, in 196 BCE, the king was just 13 years old. So a teenager who received a crown at a
No.
tricky moment in history of the
No.
Ptolemaic dynasty, yeah. The reign of Ptolemy, stop saying the P. The reign of Ptolemy the Fourth ended with widespread revolt throughout Egypt, including a short-lived dynasty of native kings in Upper Egypt in 206 BCE. Part of the decree preserved on the Rosetta Stone celebrates Ptolemy V's quelling of the delta portion, so up north in Egypt, in the Nile River Delta. You can Google it, it'll bring it right up. They quelled that portion of the rebellion and his supposed siege of the city of Lycopolis. So hang in there. This is going to make a little bit more sense in a little bit. Archaeological excavations at the site show evidence of disturbance and disruption at this time. While the excavators were associated with the Ptolemaic suppression of the revolts, right? So they're finding the evidence that says, hey, yeah, we know that this happened here. Now, although the young king inherited the throne at the death of his father in 204 BCE, he actually came to rule as a toddler under the supervision of what we will call scheming regents. Bet you can go guess where this is going. They quickly arranged the murder of the queen, Arsinoe III, yep, leaving the young
Mm,
boy without a mother or family regent. As a child, Ptolemy V was crowned by the regents in the palace, but his official coronation was delayed for 9 years until he grew older. Later, this coronation is the celebratory cause of the Memphis Decree, which is written on the Rosetta Stone. So, what a lot of the information is saying is that he was kind of a figurehead, if you're getting that. There's a lot of stuff happening here
okay.
in between the time when father dies, revolts are happening, he's taking over, he's too young to do it, so they need to do that, but also they killed any family that would stand up for him, right? So they can kind of rule as they please in his place while he sits as a figurehead on the throne. It's kind of what's
Yeah.
happening here. So, although that River Delta resistance was defeated, according to the text on the Rosetta Stone, the Upper Egyptian rebels held out until 186 BCE when the royal sovereignty over the region was restored. So that's with Dad, because he didn't come to rule until after 204 when he was a toddler when his father died for him to become king, and then wasn't allowed to rule for, like, what did it say, 15 years after that? Took a long time. Sorry, we're jumping around a lot. I'm trying to keep it straight for everybody.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
The decree itself is a complex document confirming the negotiation of authority between two powerful groups, the royal house of the. I keep wanting to say the P. This is just gonna. So, between those two powerful groups, the royal house of the Ptolemies and the group of Egyptian priests. In the stone's text, Ptolemy the Fifth is presented as a beneficent ruler. So, like, the figurehead, basically, is what I was telling you earlier. He's
Okay.
basically, they're saying he's going to do all these great things for you. He's going to renew financial support for temples, increase priestly stipends. Gee, I wonder who came up with that. Reduce taxes, offer amnesty for prisoners, and sponsor prominent animal cults. That is in there.
Ooh, animal cults. Okay.
I don't know what that means, and I didn't look into it because that's not what my story's about today, so I'm not worrying about it.
Okay.
Maybe they just really
Good
like
call.
yaks, and that's what I'm going to say to myself. So that's what's talked about in the Rosetta Stone. We don't really have much more than that because it's a chunk. I'm sure Laurel will put a picture of it up here for you, and if not, if you have a means to Google it, Google the Rosetta Stone, and you'll see it's this big, dark slab of rock, which I would not want to lift up and probably could not lift up, and it's broken kind of like down on one side, and it's out of like I saw a drawing of what it would have come out. It was like a ceiling to floor length big tablet with like chiseled stuff in it. That's what it would have come out of. So we have just a piece of that, which is probably close to my size.
Wow.
It's
Yeah.
pretty big. It's a big
It is
stone.
large.
Um but that's how the Rosetta Stone was uncovered. The stone that ended up connecting us with ancient people whom we had not heard from in almost a millennia. And I mean, that's what was so interesting to me is that birth of Egyptology. I don't know about you. Remember we had the little hieroglyphs kit as kids and stuff like
Yeah.
that?
I
And
love mine.
it was so cool, and just I mean, how much of the past even has been able to be uncovered from that, because a lot of I mean, look at how into Egypt a lot of people are. I think a, a lot of their stuff you into the good problem that they're in a desert area, so they don't have a lot of wood. You know, where we always talk about like, why don't we know more? Like, I know we spend a lot of time up in like the Scandinavian area or even in England and stuff, although I think they used more stone than they did wood as well. But when things are written down on what they had, which is, wood and stuff further up north, here they have stone and sand, but they're not going to write on sand. And papyrus, I know that they made papyrus, but to have that preserved for so long, it's kind of a treasure because you don't always get that with certain civilizations because their stuff just didn't last long enough to be around for us to learn about, and once
Yeah.
somebody dies, not passing on like how to speak that language, or certain cultures or customs, it's dead. It's a dead culture, which is kind of sad to think about, but also incredible to see this revival from finding the Rosetta Stone like that and that connection to the past.
Yeah.
Super cool. There you go. That's our first stop on our tour of Egypt.
Nice. Very good. Thank you, Katie. Well, hello there, fellow travelers of time. While we journey through the sands of ancient Egypt, why not make sure you're part of our growing dynasty? Follow and subscribe to the podcast so you'll never miss an episode from us. And while you're smashing that subscribe button, please make sure to rate and review the show on whatever platform you're watching or listening from. It really is the best way to help our little show grow. Want to keep up with us in between episodes? We are also on social media. You can find us on Instagram at High Tales of History or on TikTok at High Tales of History Pod. And if you'd like to become a true patron of the past, join our Patreon, the Best Buds Club. Not only will you be helping us keep the torches lit, but you'll also unlock exclusive extra content, including but not limited to half-baked episodes, historical movie nights on the Big Brown Couch, and, in fact, speaking of ancient Egypt, in our last series on the history of divination, our guest Sandra, who is an intuitive tarot reader, did 2 extra readings for our best buds, and one of them includes a channel reading from Cleopatra. All the links to our social media and Patreon are in the episode description. Next up, we travel to the turn of the 20th century and the grand discovery of the tomb of Egypt's lost boy king. And with that, let's puff pass it on to part 2. All right, I'm going to fast forward our history to a little over a century after the finding of the Rosetta Stone. So, boop, pick up that pin, boop, put it where we're at now. I love to set a scene. Okay, we go like whoosh, sand, right? Okay. Desert winds blow across the hot Valley of the Kings. Sorry, I had
The intro of Aladdin plays. Oh,
yeah. It's a sacred burial ground on the west bank of the Nile. For well over 3 millennia, countless pharaohs, queens, and nobles have been laid to rest in this sacred valley. Their tombs were filled with their riches and their mummified bodies swaddled in linen, awaiting their passage into the afterlife. Okay, that's my my transition. The sand. Think of it like in the Mummy. You know how the Mummy, like it shows a fast forwarding of time.
Oh yeah,
and you see the sand and everything like blows the Anubis face. Yes, that's what we're gonna do. Over those millennia, these ancient tombs had been discovered, looted, forgotten, found again, documented, looted. It's just all these things that happened over the course of these millennia. And this wasn't something that was unique to foreigners. It wasn't necessarily European or colonial powers that were in Egypt doing this, although they did. This was a practice that had been going on also for millennia, because when you look at ancient Egypt, and like if you looked at it on the history timeline, even to ancient Egyptians, ancient Egypt was ancient. Yeah. So it's like, so this is happening for a long time. Ancient Egypt as a whole, so again, like think of that history timeline, ranged from approximately 3100 BCE, way back there, all the way up to 30 BCE. And then it gets divided into periods like the pre-dynastic, the early dynastic, the Old Kingdom, the first intermediate period, the Middle Kingdom, the second intermediate period, the New Kingdom, and the late period. And each one of those even has their own amount of time and things that were happening within it that make it like its own characteristics and its own way that life was happening, that rule was happening. So
when I do that, fuck, that's old. This is what I'm talking about.
Ancient Egypt is a bananas long,
old as fuck,
noodles long, just
noodles.
It's a fruit by the foot long sort of
fruit by the like yards and meters, more like it's still rolling.
It's so long. Bubble tape.
Yeah.
These are all things. I know.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Did you ever just like hold one of it, end of it in your mouth, and then like the rest of it just went down on the floor and you tried to eat it?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
and I used to both do that, and then I remember, because I like the sour one, I always like sour candies, I'd take it and just bite out the middle, and you're like, "Why would you do that?" And I was like, "Chaos."
Oh my god, that got me. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Anyway, so that's how we would could measure it. Um, Ancient tombs were looted by ancient Egyptians and then even by the government itself in times of unrest. As in, like, if I were the government, the ruler at that time, I was like, hey, we need more gold, and I know so and so's tomb has it, so
Uh-huh.
go get it.
Go
And
get
people would
yeah.
get it.
The disrespect, man.
I know. It got to the point where, like, more grave robbings were happening at a certain point, and the pharaohs, or like the government at that time, moved the mummies that were left from tombs that had already been like robbed or whatever, and then they buried them all outside of the Valley of the Kings in an unmarked grave in order to preserve them. So at a certain
Wow.
point, they were like, "Oh, hey, maybe we should stop this."
I
Well, at least
mean
like not let the mummies
well, yeah, because,
get
I mean,
looted,
they could
or
really get damaged because remember in the linens, they would put jewelry and trinkets and stuff like that. So, and as a grave robber, they were literally pushing open that sarcophagi and then, like, probably going through that, which is kinda shitty. Super shitty, especially, like, literally that whole, like, "You'll have to pry it out of my cold, dead hands." They did, dude. They didn't give a
yeah,
you get the
yeah,
idea. The disrespect, bro.
yeah. So now we're going to open our story, 1891. So again, nearly a century after Napoleon and the Rosetta Stone, young 17-year-old English lad by the name of Howard Carter. He meets an Egyptologist through his artist father, whose name is Percy Newbery, and this man sets young Howard up with a job to record all of the artwork being uncovered in the tombs and temples all around Egypt at this time. So once Napoleon and the Egyptian, or sorry, and the French uncovered all these ancient Egyptian tombs and like all this culture, everyone was like, holy shit, this is amazing. Give me some more of it. So basically, all through the 19th century, Egypt, as Katie mentioned, like Egypt is just getting raided by all these like outside forces. Well,
Yes.
outside powers, colonial powers.
Burglarized of all of their national treasures.
Yeah. So people are flocking to Egypt. And so off Howard Carter goes, which is a great gig, I suppose, when you're 17 years old. And they're like, right, we're going to basically teach you how to be like an archaeologist of art. Like, we want you to just record all this stuff for the archaeologists. Rad. Although he doesn't have any formal training in archaeology, he has a really good eye for art. And working alongside various archaeologists at these different digs, he learns the scientific methods behind it and essentially gets trained up on site to become an archaeologist. It's also the end of the 19th century. This is the anyone can do anything if they put their mind to it. You know what I mean? It's kind of time. So there were a lot of like gentlemen explorers and adventurers and like scientists that were kind of making their own
Yeah, it's
way
like
downtown.
very like I picture weirdly enough Tarzan, that like era,
Hmm.
where they're all like Victorian, but like everyone is like ready. I mean, isn't the Brendan
Yeah.
Fraser mummy set around that time too? Like,
That one's maybe I think it's in the 30s,
oh, you're
20s
right.
or
No, no, no.
30s.
I think you're right. Either way, it's still one of
Yeah.
those things. It's like, yeah, you're right because they have running cars. That makes sense.
Okay.
But it's like a 1920s car. So yeah, you're
Something like
right.
that. Yeah.
But either way, yes. That whole Tarzan with Clayton and like those types where they just set up
Hmm.
in the jungle and then they're just all about it. Yeah.
Yep. So he becomes an archaeologist on the job. He later gets work with the Egyptian Antiquities Service in the early 1900s and holding several senior positions, and even a position that put him in charge of the Great Pyramids of Giza. What? Hot. Cool. How do you get that job? Unfortunately, he loved it, he had it, he lost it after instructing Egyptian guards to defend themselves against a party of drunken French tourists who tried to force their way onto a site. So I guess these drunk tourists are trying to get onto his site. He's going, no, no, you can't do that.
No, because they're
And
gonna destroy history. I'm on his
yeah,
side.
And so he told the Egyptian guards, like, hey, defend yourselves if you must. Now, I don't know what came out of it after that order, but his job was lost after that. So there's that. And in order to make ends meet, he put his artistic talent to use and sold watercolor pictures to tourists. His real dream His real dream, folks, was to excavate at the Valley of the Kings. That was where there were a lot of really remarkable finds. But the rights to dig in that area were held by an American by the name of Theodore Davis. Now, Howard Carter isn't the only one who wants to get a concession to dig in the Valley of the Kings. George Herbert, the fifth Earl of Carnarvon, is one of those Egypt loving British aristocrats who wants Egyptian artifacts in his house, and he loves Egyptian stuff, and he's been coming to Egypt since 1903 on his summers because he was told it'd be good for his health, and he's like, yes, it would be. I like the way you think, Doc. Going to vacation in Egypt every summer, right? Because I can.
Casually.
Actually, Highclere Castle, which is his house, it's still in operation today, and his descendants have a website and books about his history and everything like that. So I'll put that in the show notes. You can look it up. But the house was used as
That's rad.
Downton Abbey, I guess.
Oh,
If I
okay.
read that correctly, it's the Downton Abbey house.
Sounds good. I've
Yeah,
never seen Downton
I'll
Abbey,
put a
but
picture of that up.
for those who love it, I'm sure that's exciting.
Yeah, and so it's a pretty popular place. But yeah, same guy, Carnarvon. And he hired Howard Carter to supervise excavations that he was funding. He's like, I'm gonna pay for some excavations, and I hear you're the guy. And Howard Carter's like, I am that guy. Now Theodore Davis, he still has the rights. That's the American. He still has the rights on the Valley of the Kings. But shortly before he dies, he's like, I fear the Valley of the Tombs is now exhausted. And he gives up his rights to the valley, and he also passes away very shortly after. So he thought there's no more left of the Valley of the Kings. There's nothing left to be found. It is exhausted. I am exhausted. And he passes away. Now, other Egyptologists were like, yeah, I agree. There are no more tombs to be found. We've even found the elusive King Tut's tomb because we found belongings from him in this little pit when Davis was excavating like a little area. It had earthen pots with the boy king's name on them. Now, this little pit and the things that were found inside of it was labeled KV54. That was its like archaeological
It's his
cache name.
registration tag, yeah.
Yeah.
I like how we both included that in our stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's a weird thing that came from both stories. Like, they had it in the
Yeah.
sources, so I was like, "All right, well, I'll put that in. That seems important." It never comes up again. I was like, "Okay,
Yeah. That's the
this is the
official name.
tag. This is the tag."
Hmm. They were like, okay, we found some of his stuff. We've never found a full tomb, but like must be what's left of it because it's the only thing that has his name on it. We found everything. Pack up, fuckers. It's time to go home. But Howard Carter isn't deterred by this. He's like, I don't think that they found. Well, I don't think they found everything, but specifically, I don't think they found Pharaoh Tutankhamun's tomb. I think it's still there. I think they might have just found something random with his name on it, but like I think the actual tomb still exists. Now, lucky for him, the concession for excavation had been snatched up by a new guy, his employer, Lord Carnarvon, and the pair immediately set to work in June 1914. So now they've got their team, Carnarvon and Howard Carter. He's going to be the archaeologist. Carnarvon's going to be his sponsor. He's got the rights to it. He's going to be funding the excavation. Howard Carter is the archaeologist who's going to be leading it. And they have their concessions. They have the Valley of the Kings ahead of them. June 1914, something really big also happens that month. And that's the assassination. Yep, Katie, you
I was
got
gonna say,
it.
let me think. I think powder keg,
Yes,
Europe,
right.
nobody gets along.
Hmm.
Assassination.
Hmm. Yes. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand and the start of World War I.
Indeed.
The war begins. Both Carter and Carnarvon get involved in war efforts, so they go to different places away from the dig. Carnarvon sets his house up as a military hospital, so that Highclere Castle that I was just talking about gets set up as a military hospital. And then Howard Carter worked for the Foreign Office in the Middle East. So they both joined the war efforts for World War One. Right as the war's wrapping up, they start coming back, or at least sending people back to the site to begin immediately after the war ends. Now, at this time period and all the digging that was going on, it meant that all these years of excavations there, shit was just piled up like 30 feet high, just huge blocks of stone and sand and more stone and all this stuff. Just everything was just ripped apart. So Carter's like, right, we got to get to work moving some of this stuff around to get to where I would like to go and dig. He borrows some railway track from the antiquities service he used to work for, and he gets some also like some pump trolleys, some trucks that are like
Yep, it
hand
helps to
crank.
have connections. Man's got
Mhm.
connections.
Yeah. The real heroes of the story, though, well, is the large team of Egyptian workmen and boys who carried out all of the hard work of the excavation, who get very little recognition, if any at all. There's 4 foremen: Ahmed Garagar, Gad Hassan, Hussein Abdul Awad, and Hussein Ahmed Said, in charge of a team of what was approximated to be 60 to 100 workers. Over the course of 5 years, the team worked day after day, month after month, year after year, looking for the tomb of Pharaoh Tutankhamun. And then in all those years, the workmen and boys shifted between 150,000 to 200,000 tons of rubble. And all that work produced very little in the way of results. Okay. 1922. The funding was dwindling, and Egypt also declared independence from Britain after 40 years of direct colonial control. Big year. It's a big year for Egypt. Okay. Lord Carnarvon's like, maybe the Valley of the Kings really has been all dug up. Everything's been found. Maybe we should just pack up. Like, there's no more left. But Howard Carter's like, please, please, one more season. I'll
I
even
know
pay
there's
for it. I know, I
something
just feel
here.
it in my bones. And he brings a couple of like sweeteners to the pot. Or like sweeteners, sweeten the pot. Anyway, he
I
brings
guess
some
so.
fancy things that people are gonna sweeten the deal a little bit. And he says, we have 2 ancient workmen's huts near the entrance to Pharaoh Ramses VI's tomb that
Okay.
would have been from the same sort of time as King Tutankhamun. So we found these, and these workman huts have not been touched. We've found them like undiscovered. That's
Wow.
fun. That's exciting. And then he also used some evidence from that KV 55 or 54. Was it 55? 54. 54, 55. I have 2 different ones written down. I think it's 54. He used them from that cache to say these bowls with Tutankhamun's name are probably because it was used for his embalming. The ancient Egyptians just didn't throw shit out. So, like,
Yeah.
if it had touched the king. So, like, if they were embalming a pharaoh
Mm-hmm.
and they used this cup to do that, and like they
Yeah.
were using stuff in it or whatever, they were going to put my name on it, and then they were going to put it like in a little pit
Shelf.
somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep it.
You're not going to throw it away, but it's not going to go in the tomb with you because you don't need it to embalm you, like whatever.
Right,
But it's
right.
sacred enough, or it's important enough because it touched the body of the king,
Correct.
or the royalty, the nobility.
Because their kings, I don't know if it bears mentioning, their kings were manifestations of gods to them.
Hmm.
So the
Yeah.
king was holy. Super
Hmm.
important. That's why this stuff is like, which is what surprises me so much that people even had the gall to rob it. So I was like, wow, that shocks me.
Hmm.
But if you don't care,
So Carter's like, I feel like we're really close to finding it. Give me another chance. So Lord Carnarvon concedes, but with an ultimatum: find the tomb by the end of the season, or else the excavation's over. The landscape of Egypt is about to change, y'all. Okay, so it's November 4th, 1922. Carter's team of local workmen and boys finally uncover the first signs of the tomb. They have a couple of steps that they find. As they had dug further, they found a staircase cut into the rock about 12 feet below the entrance of Ramsay VI's tomb, where those workmen's huts were. So they're like, is this another tomb? Is this a dead end? Where did these stairs go? We have not found these stairs before. Where did they go? Where did they come from? Where did they go? Where did they come from? Cotton Eye Joe, tell me, tell me. So they're sweeping the sand away. They find a sealed doorway and the name that they have long been looking for, Tutankhamun. Ah! Now Carter knows that this is like, oh, we found it. We found his name.
This is a moment.
Yeah. The only thing that so it's a big moment for sure. The only thing that cast a little bit of shadow on it was when they looked at the seal. They're like, oh, it's not actually sealed. Like, so they thought it was sealed, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
They could tell it had been tampered with,
Oh,
meaning that
no.
somebody else had gotten to the tomb before them. But like,
Damn it.
how much is this going to be completely looted, or at least no?
Yeah.
Like, okay, now we'll have an answer at least about if the mummy is still there or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But he cabled his patron, Lord Carnarvon, saying like, "Hey, we've found something. We think you should come back and return for it." And so immediately Carnarvon's like, "Let's go." He brings along his daughter. They arrive in Egypt on November 22nd. They arrive to the work site. It's November 26, 1922. Lord Carnarvon, his daughter, Howard Carter, the foreman, some workmen, everyone's there. Everyone's present. There's some buzz. There's some buzz happening here. And the workmen continue until they're all in front of a second sealed door. Tutankhamun's name is on this door as well. And Carter chips away at like the top corner in order to peek inside. So he's like, of the door. He's like, okay. So he tests to make sure the air is not toxic. Otherwise, that'd be bad.
Is
Test
that
that
a
out.
possibility?
Yes, I guess. I'm not sure what
What?
would make it toxic. If it was like
All the fumes,
because
a
of the
dead body,
sealed, yeah. Because it gets sealed, that there's like mold or something. I don't know, maybe not
or
mold, but
natural
like
gas, even.
something like that. Yeah.
I'm gonna
So
Google that.
Google that. Thank you. But coast is clear. He goes and he looks up through the hole. I did that with my wrong eye. There we go. Quote, "It was some time before one could see," Carter later wrote in his diary. "The hot air escaping caused the candle to flicker, but as soon as one's eye became accustomed to the glimmer of the light, the interior of the chamber gradually loomed before one, with its strange and wonderful medley of extraordinary and beautiful objects heaped upon one another." "Can you see anything?" Lord Carnarvon asked him. "Yes, it is wonderful," replied Carter. Glimmer, gold catches his eye, another. The tomb is filled with all these gilded statues and chests with intricate carvings and thrones. There's jewels and so much gold. It is the stuff of legends, untouched by time. Holy shit. And it's not just the treasure that gets Carter, although I'm sure that's really striking and exciting. There's like this stillness because at this point they believe that it has been untouched, it's completely sealed, and just time has stood still. And in this moment, everything changes. Holy shit. News of the discovery of the untouched tomb of ancient Egypt's forgotten boy king took the world by storm, and tourists were flocking there in droves. Droves, I tell you. Everyone's coming to see all the Egyptian stuff and watch them pull the stuff out of the excavation site. Carter
So,
Carnarvon and their team had to now retrieve, catalog, and conserve thousands of precious ancient artifacts while the whole world is watching. There's journalists there, people taking pictures, there's tourists taking camel rides through to like watch. It's chahos, as my sister would say.
listen, I was like 9.
I love it. Okay.
So, was it actually untouched? It had not been robbed?
Okay. I'm glad
Well,
you.
okay. If you're about to launch into a story, let me answer your question really quick.
Okay.
Laboratory studies have revealed that some ancient mummies do indeed carry mold. At least 2 potentially dangerous species that can cause allergic reactions ranging from congestion to bleeding in the lungs. And then it mentioned, but this might come into your story. It's saying that some of the ancient tombs are radioactive.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And they're
Interesting.
saying that
Okay.
might contribute to certain things, if you know what I'm
Oh,
saying.
interesting. Okay.
Indeed.
That's my wrong eye. There we go. I
You
heard you
can't
like
wait
bad
when
girls.
you blink
You're
when
bad
you
at
wink, you're
everything.
supposed to use one eye, not two of them.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, and so I mean, it's a lot of stuff that they're trying to pull out, and then everything's super ancient. It's heavy, ancient. Moving things was impossibly difficult. Like some things like clothing would practically disintegrate, or like wood stuff would disintegrate like the moment it was touched, So it took 3 weeks just to empty a single casket of the king's clothes. It's just very carefully doing all of that.
I'm assuming they're linen, right?
It's something like that, yeah. One
Wow.
thing had like did I write it down? It had like thousands of gold sequins and then like 12,000 blue beads or something on it. I was like, this sounds amazing. This
They
sounds like
lived
one hell of an outfit, actually.
they lived in luxury, those
Hmm.
pharaohs, holy crap.
Yeah. I was like, ooh. Carter had a big old team, though. Carter had on the team a chemist and forensics expert by the name of Alfred Lucas to analyze the tomb. Lucas concluded that two break-ins had occurred in antiquity, so like way, way back when, but the robbers had only gotten away with a small amount of items, like small enough that they hadn't noticed. It wasn't like a whole room was cleared out, and that was it. Like it hadn't been touched besides these two times. I did see in one of my sources, though, that more current historians and like scholars on this think that that actually they got away with almost half of what would have been there.
Oh, really?
And I was like, what? So, or like
Wow.
the jewels at least,
So they
like the
took the
royal
valuables
jewelry.
and left
Yeah.
the rest. Yeah,
Hmm.
that checks out.
As Carter and his team dug deeper, they uncover the richness of Tutankhamun's life and death. There's a meteoric iron dagger. They're like, wow, that's cool because like made of meteoric iron. There's chariots. There's an array of golden masks and amulets and jewelry. There's so much fucking gold, jewels. Like everything's gold.
Egypt, like anytime
So
I
much
think of
gold.
it, I think gold.
Yeah,
Like that is the color I
so much
associate with
gold.
Egypt is gold.
Hmm. Eventually, the contents of the tomb numbered about 5,400 items. It took 8 years for Howard Carter and his team to work through it and like reveal it all and take a look at all of it. 8 years. It was painstakingly photographed and documented by photographer Harry Burton, who had previously worked as a photographer in Hollywood and staged the photos to look like extra dramatic and mysterious. It's just like, but the lighting. If we put the lighting, we get the lighting a certain way, it's gonna like look extra sexy. And they're really iconic pictures. I'll put them up
You
here
gotta
for
you
you.
gotta
Yeah.
create hype, dude.
Hmm.
That's what that whole direwolf project was about, was creating hype so that they could finish saving that red wolf from extinction. Like we need some fucking hype now, quick! Fucking GMO some goddamn gray wolves with some fucking old ass DNA and fucking get us some sponsors, man. Like that's what they did.
Oh, good to
It's a
know.
total hype project, you know. You've been lied to. They're just genetically modified gray wolves. They're not actually dire
Yeah.
wolves.
And that might have helped to fan the flames of intrigue and mystery that surrounded the tomb of Tutankhamun. Because those newspapers of the early 20th century sensationalized the shit out of it. Let's give him the old razzle dazzle. And as soon as the news of the tomb's discovery reached the world, very soon it was followed with rumors of the curse of the pharaohs. Whoa. I'm sure the rumor didn't need much to get started because people never really need that much of a push. But when Lord Carnarvon died 7 weeks after the opening of the tomb, people were like,
Mm.
mm, it's also said, it's rumored that Carnarvon's dog Susie died at the same time, thousands of miles away in England, that she howled and died at the same time her master
I've
did.
heard that. I
So
have heard that legend, dude.
it's a real legend.
Oh, it's a real legend.
Sir Arthur Conan Doyle of Sherlock Holmes fame, and someone who was particularly caught up in the spiritualism movement that we talked about in like the last couple of episodes, announced that, well, there are many malevolent spirits, and it's possible. It's possible that one of them got the Earl of Carnarvon. So other authors, are like writing about mummy stuff and poems and short stories because they're like, "Ooh, this is spooky." There was a movie with Boris Karloff as like one of the original Universal Monsters movies, The Mummy. It's sexy.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them. Like even the Brendan Fraser one is revolved around
Well, it's
that sort of
based
thing.
around that
Hmm.
original Mummy, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's a remake, but oh god, that movie is so iconic. I'm sorry. I'm gonna die on that hill.
it is very good. So much fun. Now, folks, long story short, there is no curse. Literally, never one written down. It was really just British papers trying to sell more papers, right? Like, but it didn't
It was a
help.
slow news week. What do you want
It's
from
slow.
me?
I know. Let's really sex this up a little bit with some intrigue and mystery, and yeah. But it didn't help that like some people in Carter's team began, after they began cataloging the artifacts, that like things started to happen and people started
Yeah,
dying, and it was
good.
like, ooh. So, as I mentioned, Lord Carnarvon died only 7 weeks after the opening of the tomb. He contracted an infection when he shaved over a mosquito bite on his cheek, and soon more deaths followed. Individuals connected to the excavation, from Carter's own workers to prominent figures involved in the discovery. Sir Bruce Ingham, a friend of Howard Carter, accepted the gift of a paperweight. This sounds like a bad idea. Accepted the gift of a paperweight made from a mummified hand, and then his house burned down.
Why would you do that?
No,
Yeah, your
don't
house
take a
burned
mummified
down.
hand. Don't
Like,
just
yeah,
don't no mummified hands, no mummified body parts in your house. We don't do that.
maybe like don't take the body from where
Don't
I've
do it.
never
Yeah, don't do
understood
this.
that. Like, I get removing it for research and looking at it and then putting it back. I understand that to scan and learn what we can from humanity because I know they did that with Tut because they found like scoliosis and stuff, which is really interesting if you're looking at like from a genetic historical point of view to help treat diseases and whatnot to better understand them. But I like so I understand the removal for like a scientific look over, but not to like put it where people can just walk by and go, oh, like so it's kind of one of those things where it's like not a big
Mhm.
fan of that. And I think once they're removed, they should be put back where they were properly. If you want to go stare at the grave, you can do that, but like,
Yeah.
you know.
Another on the list is American financier George J. Gould. He visited the tomb and soon after contracted pneumonia, dying on May 16th, 1923. Other deaths rumored to be a part of this curse, air quotes, were Carnarvon's younger brother, who died 5 months after his older brother was suffering. Oh, sorry, who died 5 months after his older brother after suffering from blood poisoning. And Prince Ali Kamel Fahmy Bey was shot by his wife on July 10th, 1923. South African millionaire Wolf Joel was fatally shot in Johannesburg, 1923. Sir Archibald Douglas Reed, radiologist, died after suffering from illness on the 15th of January, 1924. Sir Lee Stack, Governor General of Sudan, was assassinated while Sir Lee Stack, Governor General of Sudan, was assassinated while driving his car in Cairo, 1924. And Prince Hala Bey, the brother of Prince Ali Bey, committed suicide. So they were saying that all these people have been in.
Wow. Now, I
Right.
kind of don't like it doesn't surprise me that a curse came up because like that's a rap sheet, dude. Like, oh my god.
I mean, well, there's still so much whisper of a curse surrounding it to this day that an epidemiologist researched it in 2002 and did a whole published study on like the likelihood of it and like the studies from the
Mhm.
bodies and like all these different things of what could have been in the tomb and the exposure rates of how like how long it would take you to be exposed to
Yeah.
something in the tomb and like anyway, and their conclusion was no, there's no chance of that. But anyway,
Oh,
I'm
really?
sure it was a really speaking of passion projects as you're talking about. I'm sure that was like a fun thing to do, but I would think they'd have better things to do with their time. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying, but also like that's a rap sheet. It would make sense to me,
Yeah.
how you get radon like in a basement or whatever. How
Hmm.
come you don't going into the earth? What if, exposure to the radon over that amount of time that can make you sick? Why
Hmm.
not? Although the assassinations are weird. Don't know what to tell you about that. What a
Yeah.
violent time to be alive.
I mean, if you want to know more about it, I have under the show notes and like the mentioned in the story, so you can read the study if you want to see it. But curse or no, it didn't stop the people from becoming absolutely bananas for anything Egyptian, anything King Tut. Everything from lemons to cigarettes were named King Tut to help boost their sales. President Herbert Hoover even named his dog King Tut. Egypt Mania
Oh
was
my
having like a
gosh.
little revival after its first go around with Napoleon. It was prolific, it was everywhere. Fashion, people had like thick
Mythology.
eyeliner on,
Yep.
cobra head pieces, Art Deco infused with sphinx and columns and like papyrus and,
Yep.
pop culture, again, like
Oh yeah.
movies, poems, books, like all these different things that reflected just Egypt mania, that curse, anything like spooky and like mythological about, or mythical, I'm mythical about Egypt and ancient Egypt. People were into it. And it was even Egypt mania for Egyptians as well. Like I said,
Yeah.
1922 is a big year for Egypt. They declared independence and they have a mostly untouched tomb of one of their lost pharaohs, that had
Mhm.
like a very small part in history. And it's been found, and they're like, well, this is great. And like all the riches
Yeah.
and loot is still there, for the most part. And it should not go without saying that in the decades that followed the discovery, Egyptians did fight hard to keep the contents of Tutankhamun's tomb within their
I was gonna
borders.
ask about that.
hmm a lot of people saw it as like a symbol of their past
Well,
greatness. Like look
because
at
all the
this,
rest of
like
them have been robbed.
yeah,
I don't blame
um,
them.
yeah, and it just was like a little bit of like standing up to foreign colonizing powers, and
Mhm.
and archaeology has always really kind of been interwoven with colonization,
Yeah.
to a
Yeah.
certain degree. So like that was like a big moment for Egypt to stand up and be like, well, hey, like
This is our
this
hey,
is
you
ours
found it
now.
in
Yeah.
Egypt. It is
hmm
Egyptian. Done.
So yeah. So who was this young pharaoh that everyone was smitten kittens over? It captured the imagination of millions worldwide. But Tutankhamun ruled over, or Tutankhamun, as sometimes like Americans would say it, Tutankhamun. Now we're going to do that one to sound more intelligent. Ruled over Egypt from 1333 to 1323 BCE. It's about 10 years, starting about the age of 9 and dying at 19. Now, in
Woof.
order to understand, yeah, boy king for sure. Like became a king when he was a boy, died a boy king, all of it.
What does one order at 9? Like chicken nuggies for every meal? Like, I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
saying, like,
just a little child in charge of everything. Well,
in
I mean,
Egypt.
they've got advisors and stuff, but still,
Yeah,
like,
but I mean, Egypt is not a of all of the civilizations to have power over, and an ancient Egyptian one is like, woof. Like, they
mhm,
had things at their disposal.
yeah. So, in order to understand Tutankhamun and his rule, you have to get to know his successor and his daddy, Akhenaten, the heretic pharaoh. Lightning flash.
Oh, I'm listening.
Okay, so old Akhenaten, he was, shall I say, probably a bit of an asshole. Probably. That's what I'm going to go with. He was previously known as Amenhotep the Fourth, and he was known as the heretic pharaoh because of how radically he changed the face of Egyptian religion and seats of power. You know how ancient Egypt was polytheistic and they had this kick-ass pantheon of deities, right? And they all look sick, right? It's like falcon, jackal, crocodile,
Horus.
hippo,
Yeah,
ruled by
Anubis. Yep.
Amun, the king of the gods. Yeah.
Mhm.
hmm
Ra.
Akhenaten was like, fuck that noise. Mm-mm. We are now monotheistic, and we're all going to now worship this sun god called Aten. And
Oh,
this was
yeah.
like,
I didn't realize that was Tut's
what?
dad that did that.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
As soon as you go into that, I'm like, "Oh, I know where you're at in history now."
hmm Egyptians were like, wait, what? Because this is
I'm
a,
sorry. Excuse me?
yeah, tectonic shift for Egyptians. And the vast majority of them were like, not at all about it at all.
Absolutely not.
No, they're like, absolutely not. As time went on, Akhenaten further just lost his marbles. And despite inheriting a booming economy from his predecessor, he started to use that money to bribe elites over to his side and gave gifts to anyone who kissed his ass and swore fealty. And he then deployed them to destroy all iterations of Amun from Egyptian cities, monuments, and art. Further still, he moved his family to a new capital city that he built from the ground up called Ak. Akhetaten, there's an extra T in there, Akhetaten, it's very close to his name, meaning the horizon for the Aten. And then he really stepped in it when he changed his name from Amenhotep the fourth, meaning Amun is pleased, to Akhenaten, meaning perfect for the Aten.
Wow.
Okay, buddy. And this, of course, led to him consolidating his power even more and saying that people can only pray to Aten through him. So you have to
Oh,
pray to me, and I will send it up to Aten. So as people like generally loathe him for all of this, and then he has like this totalitarianism and like this like religious zealotry that no one is about, and it's into this world that Tutankhamun was born. So
yikes.
yuck. So like not only are you a product of so much inbreeding that you have your own disabilities from that, right? Should I
I
not say that?
remember being told that he did, but I
Yeah.
don't remember the extent of it.
Like the scoliosis, I think they found a crooked spine. His head
Yeah.
was not any differently shaped. People always say like
Okay.
he had like a big head, and that's because it's probably like a stylistic thing of artists at that time that drew his
Yeah.
family. They had like the alien kind of head. Not sure, but his actual head was fine.
Normal for the
But
time. Yeah.
yeah, he was sickly. They found also club foot, which is just like when your foot instead of facing straight turns is turned
He's just
in and then like
dragging his
under.
foot around like hunched. Dude was
Yeah, like Lord
Quasimodo.
Byron had one too. But he was just yeah, he just kind of had some sickly stuff going on. But it seemed he had like there was a lot of walking sticks, so it seemed like he just tried to be as active as possible. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
his family was very, very inbred. Like
Yikes.
so they try to like pick it apart the family tree on with like DNA, and there are still debates about who his mother is because it's like could be like his parents were cousins, and then like his wife was his daughter at one point, and then
Wait, what?
exactly, yeah, and then like they could be his it could be his sister, it could be his cousin, and then you're
Oh,
like, well, wait, who is that? It's like that, and then people will say, no,
yeah.
it wasn't that, it was this person, but it's still a family member. Like either
Yeah.
way, it's not like not anyone not outside of the family. So there's like,
Family. Yeah.
yeah, it's
So a lot of
tangled
inbreeding.
even within the tree.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, so like your daddy is a whole ass problem, and then you become king at 9. You know, so
Yeah. That's
Tut's name was originally Tutankhamun, Tutankhaten, Tutankhaten, I think. Anyway, meaning a living image of Aten. That's what his dad named him. He named him after the Aten, like sun god.
uh-huh.
But after the death of his father and he became king, his name was changed to Tutankhamun, Amun, to
So
reflect the first goal of his reign, which is to restore the Egyptian pantheon of gods and reconcile with the people.
so
So it's
he was
all
not unpopular.
well, I think because his daddy was so unpopular, it like and Tut did not rule long enough to like really
Turn it around.
make any
Change
sort
those
of massive
sentiments.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think that he still gets kind of lumped in with his father's memory, especially with what happens with his successor, which we'll see in just a second. But unfortunately for us as history lovers, that's about all that we know about Tutankhamun. He was virtually erased from Egyptian history by his successor, Pharaoh Horemheb,
Oh.
who literally carved over Tutankhamun's name whenever he could. And he also died with no heirs. He was
Yeah.
wed to his half sister as well. So like I think there were some miscarriages and some issues
Probably.
there. Like he had no
Yeah, I don't
heirs.
need yeah.
And because he didn't live and rule long, was therefore probably just considered to be an extension of his dad, who was like so uncool. They just kind of wanted to be rid of the memory of the whole family there, I
That
guess.
sucks. It seems like he, as a 9-year-old, was already trying to right wrongs.
Well, probably at the behest of his advisors and
Advisors,
the
yeah.
regents and stuff like that. It was probably like, hey, this is what you need to do, and him being 9 years old was like, okay,
Yeah.
probably,
I
like
mean,
so
it
he
was the
gave the
best
decree.
move. So we don't know
Um,
how he died.
no, he died suddenly. Scholars are not sure what, and no one agrees. Most people now do say that it was a bad case of malaria and a broken leg or some sort of leg wound that killed him. It's like an infection on top of this case of malaria, just like all these things compounded. honestly, I'm not sure that like all the inbreeding really helped. Like
I
that.
was gonna
I
say
just can't
that.
imagine that your life would be
Mhm. So
that you'd
that's
be very healthy.
actually
You know, I don't know.
yeah, actually,
That's just
that,
my take.
like sorry to biology nerd for, like, 5 seconds, but, like, that's why sexual reproduction specifically is such an evolutionary advantage, because when you mix the genes of 2 individuals, you cover a larger portion of, resistance to disease. So, like, sexual reproduction is one of, like it's a big deal when you get to so instead of asexual reproduction, like bacteria and stuff like that, because if one thing can wipe one of them out, it can wipe all of them out. And with sexual reproduction, that
Mm.
is like eliminated. Well, made much harder. But that's why. Just a quick little blip there. Super important. It's actually a big deal. Fun fact.
Biology corner. Yeah.
I'm gonna be quietly nerdy over here now.
Yes. No, it's good. Thank you. Yeah. So I can't imagine like that did him any favors. That's just my own, input there. But it definitely wasn't a head blow, which is a popular theory for a while. Scholars actually took a look at his noggin and was like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with his noggin. There's nothing going on there. The head shape isn't weird. There's no head blow. There's no head trauma." So no to that. Now, fast forward, it's only because of trace evidence from a few things that were not destroyed that historians believed that there is even a Tutankhamun to begin with. Thankfully, Carter and other Egyptologists hung on to the belief that there was a boy king of that name whose tomb had not yet been found. Pharaoh Tutankhamun was certainly more popular in death than he was in life, and now, over 100 years later, the discovery of his final resting place captures the imagination of the world. Researchers today are using autopsies, x rays, CT scans, and DNA tests to piece together the puzzle of Tutankhamun's life and his death. But there are still so many questions like why was his tomb left mostly undisturbed when so many were looted a long time ago? Who was his mother? What was his rule and his life like? Definitively, what killed him? But the tomb stands as a reminder of the intersection between ancient grandeur and modern curiosity. The treasures of Tutankhamun have been displayed in museums worldwide and are now coming to rest back in its homeland of Egypt at the Grand Egyptian Museum in Cairo, set for a grand opening July 2025. It's open now from what I
Oh
saw,
wow.
but they're having
That
a grand
recent.
opening of all wings of it. So you can still go now, like right now, right now. Go see it. It looks
Book your
beautiful.
ticket.
Yeah. The Boy King's legacy is far more than that of just gold. It's the mystery and unanswered questions that captivate us. And it also, this event in history also gave birth to like the Gentleman Explorer sort of thing, like the Indiana Jones and like the Howard
Mhm.
Carter,
Brendan
the
Fraser.
Brendan Fraser, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Rick O'Connell, Meow.
Mhm.
So
Yep.
like that sort of, you know, Lara Croft.
Yep. That's a good one. Yeah, for real.
Sexy archaeology people and
But Tomb
Egyptian
Raider, and
Tomb
that's
Raider.
exactly what you're doing, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Mhm. So there we are. Raiders of Ancient Egypt. Katie, thank you for talking about the Rosetta Stone. That's cool. I appreciate that.
got
That was
you.
like really, really
Uh,
interesting.
in case you wondered, since you ended on yours saying that a lot of it's being returned to Egypt, which is good. It should probably all be returned to Egypt. Um, the Rosetta Stone still rests at the British Museum. So,
They won't give that one back. It's okay.
no, probably not.
I don't probably not. I mean, yeah. Um, oh, at the British Museum. Nice. Okay, I've not. I mean, makes sense.
I've never been. I'm sure there's a lot of really cool old
They
shit
have a lot of
there.
stuff there. Yeah, there are loads of things. I know there's a King Tut exhibition that traveled for the longest time. I remember when it came to the Field Museum back where like the pyramid
Didn't we
is.
go see it?
I thought
I thought we did it as a family.
I thought so
Yeah.
too, but
Okay.
I don't have any memory of it, and I feel like that's something I would really remember. That's episode 99 in the books, and that means
Yeah,
episode 100 is next. You don't want to not be here. So I'm telling you.
I agree.
I, make sure that you follow us over on social media. We're on Instagram at High Tales of History or on TikTok at High Tales of History Pod. We're also on Patreon, so we have some special Patreon content that's going to go along with episode 100, and it rhymes with rave smart. So that's for our Patreon Best Bud members. They can watch along with that Rave Smart movie. And for episode 100, where we rave smart, it's just an episode about raving smart, everybody. We're so glad that you joined us here on our Raiders of Ancient Egypt. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, get money, get high, give love, and
get out in the sunshine. It's warm out. We just went to Egypt. What did that guy say? The best thing for my health is taking a trip to Egypt every year. We don't all have that money and like patience to sit on a plane. Get outside in the sunshine, walk. It's good for you. You need the vitamin D. You need to feel the sun on your face. You deserve it. Spring is here. Unless you're in Australia, in which case fall is here. Still fucking warm by you. I saw that you guys just hit like record temperatures, so you're still good to get out in the sun. Maybe with sunscreen though.
be smart.
Sunscreen, hat, long sleeves.
Got it. Got it. Bye, everybody. See you next week for episode 100.
100.